So let's jump to level 12. So I'm going to get 2 more expertise choices. I'm going to choose acrobatics, and I'm going to choose persuasion. I also get an ability score improvement. I could raise my dex. It'd make me better at a rapier. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose a feat. The feat I'm going to choose, now we have 2 real options here. Number 1, we could choose a feat that's going to help us with concentration saves. That's perfectly reasonable. Resilient Con is becoming very good at this point. Of course, Warcaster is a good choice, and Lucky is a good choice. I instead am going to take Medium Armor Master. Medium Armor Master is giving me 2 things. Number 1, wearing medium armor doesn't impose disadvantage on my dexterity stealth checks. That means I can take full advantage of my stealth skill, which I am an expert at, even wearing half plate. So now I'm as good at stealth as any member of the party. The second thing you can do is when you wear medium armor, you can add 3 rather than 2 to your armor class if you have a dexterity score of 16 or higher. Hey, I've got a dexterity score of 16. You know what that means? That means now my armor class went up again. That means less concentration saves. My armor class is now going to be really good, and I'm going to be good at stealth. Those 2 things combined doesn't happen that often. Persuasion score plus 13, perception score plus 9, stealth score plus 11, or acrobatics score plus 11. So really high skill scores in certain skills. Spells are really strong. Important to remember, bards are not jack of all trades. Bards can't do a little bit of everything. This bard is actually not good in melee. We are level 12, and he can attack twice with the rapier for a d8 plus 3 plus magic bonus. So now we get magical secrets. We are going to pick 2 spells from a different spell list than the bard list. Now the thing you might wonder is, should I take 2 5th level spells? But I think there's additional things to think about here. Number 1, we want spells that don't use concentration. I would never take a spell with magical secrets that uses concentration. It's tempting to take a spell like Wall of Force. Wall of Force is a fantastic spell. It fills something that bards aren't very good at, but it uses concentration. And so if I'm using Wall of Force, then I'm not using Polymorph. Then I'm not using Animate Objects. That doesn't really add anything for me. And the second thing is I want spells that aren't going to be using my bonus action. It is tempting to look at spells like Spiritual Weapon and go, could I do something with Spiritual Weapon? No, you can't. You don't have enough bonus actions to be using Spiritual Weapon. Yes, it doesn't use your concentration, but you just don't have the bonus action economy for it. We want spells that use reactions or don't use actions in combat at all, and they don't use concentration. Here's the 2 spells I'm going to take. The first spell I'm going to take is Find Greater Steed. And the second spell I'm going to take is Counterspell. Now we're going to pick up an additional cantrip. This isn't as important as it once was. We might want the light spell if light is an issue in our party. We might want the mending spell, particularly if we have an archer in the party. I'm going to go ahead and take the mending spell. We only get 1 additional spell slot. We have 6th level spells now, so we will probably want to pick a 6th level spell. And I am going to take Mass Suggestion. I love Mass Suggestion. And here's the thing about Mass Suggestion. It is not concentration. It is a 24-hour duration spell. We can select up to 12 creatures. We cast Suggestion on all of them, but unlike regular Suggestion, no concentration. And they make wisdom saving throws, or we can tell them to do whatever is reasonable in your table. Again, I don't want to get too much into specifics because it's going to depend from DM to DM what they consider to be reasonable. But no matter what they consider to be reasonable, runaway has got to be reasonable. There's definitely ways you can use this, and you can do it at the same time that you're concentrating on a polymorph or an animate objects. Terrific choice for this level. So looking at our character sheet here, note that our Bardic Inspiration is now a D10. Of course, we can do 5 of them for every short rest. That means tons of Bardic Inspirations. These are combat inspirations, which are better than any other bard. Look at our spell choices, guys. And let's look at the new spell choices we have. We now have Counterspell. Counterspell is a reaction, doesn't use our concentration. We don't have a lot of reactions with bards, so Counterspell gives us a great reaction. And if we have to counterspell something that is a higher level slot than we cast, we're going to be making an ability check. That ability check does take advantage of Jack of all trades, which means we will be adding half our proficiency bonus to the roll, which makes us better at counterspelling than other classes. And then we get Find Greater Steed, and Find Greater Steed is fantastic. This is a spell that we cast, and then it's just there. And we can summon a Pegasus or a Griffin. Those are probably the two we would look at. They're going to have a minimum intelligence score of 6. They have communication with us, telepathy within a mile, which means we can use them to scout. But the main thing, of course, is this is just a great use for us as a steed. So if we summon ourselves a Pegasus, this gives us a flying mount with a speed of 90 feet per round. That means with a dash, it can go 180 feet around. Because we are in telepathic contact with it, it is considered under control. That means we can have it move 90 feet and take the dodge action, making it harder to hit. We can have it disengage. So when we're talking about maneuverability in combat, this is going to give us a huge advantage. If the Pegasus dies, we can use a 4th level slot and we can summon another one. So this is totally replaceable, and just think of the massive amount of difference this makes in terms of your maneuverability in combat. You can also give it to other characters for them to use. I have done so to get the fighters into melee faster, or drop the barbarians in. And remember, of course, if you cast a spell that targets only you, it will also affect your Pegasus. That isn't going to come up all that often. But this is just a terrific spell to cast because having this kind of maneuverability in combat is a huge advantage. And flight without concentration is a huge advantage. It's one of the reasons Aarakocra are not allowed at a lot of tables. So let's jump up to level 15. So at level 15, our Song of Rest now does a D10. That's not a big deal at this point. I mean, usually at this point in the game, we're going to have some other healing effects that are probably more than short rests, but a D10 additional on your short rest is fine. But our Combat Inspiration is now a D12. That's a pretty big deal. Adding a D12 to a D20 is a significant boost. Now we have our capstone. Here it is, Battle Magic. At 14th level, you have mastered the art of weaving spellcasting and weapon use into a single harmonious act. When you use an action to cast a bard spell, you may make one weapon attack as a bonus action. Big whoop. One weapon attack. People think that this is one of the better features of this class. No, guys, the best feature of this class is you can wear medium armor and wear a shield. That's the best. You are a spellcaster. Now you are a spellcaster with a great defense. Being able to use a weapon more than once in a round when you have no bonuses to that weapon at all, isn't that great? Being able to attack once with that weapon because you cast a spell using your bonus action, isn't that great? Did I mention that you have other uses for your bonus action? We have 15 combat inspirations a day, potentially, depending on the number of short rests we take. Maybe more, maybe less. We have animate objects that might be using our bonus action every round. And then we can use a bonus action to attack once with a weapon that has no bonus. D8 plus 3. I'm not saying I would never use this. I might use this. But it's not really what I'm considering with the Valor Bard. With the Valor Bard, most of the time, my rapier's probably collecting dust. So we are getting 2 additional known spells, and we now have 7th and 8th level spells to consider, so we're probably going to want to take one from each list. So here's our 7th level spells. There's a number of decent spells here, but I think there's one that really stands out, and that is Force Cage. Force Cage is a no saving throw spell that wins you a fight. Doesn't use your concentration. We are looking for spells that don't use concentration. We love spells that don't give you a saving throw. Force Cage ends fights with things like giant dragons. I talked about this spell in my 7th level spell videos. Terrific spell. On the Bard spell list. Bard spell list is good, guys. Great spell list. And now our 8th level spells. And as you know, 8th level spells maybe don't have as much punch as other levels. And I talked about that in my 8th level spell video, that these aren't necessarily the best spells in the game. We have 5 choices, and some of them are really bad. Glibness is very minute in its use. One thing we can use it for is we could use it to ensure that we made all our counterspell rolls. But we're probably going to make those counterspell rolls. We already have Jack of all trades we're adding on. Counterspell is usually going to stick. Do we want to use an 8th level spell to make a 3rd level spell a little bit better? It's a good 3rd level spell. I don't know. I'm told that this is a good choice. I'm not sure I buy it. I kind of think my best choice at this level is Mind Blank. Mind Blank is a 24-hour spell, doesn't require concentration. It's a buff. It makes you immune to psychic damage. It makes you immune to divination spells and the charm condition. So this is a number of different things. If you have characters who maybe use invisibility, Mind Blank's a great spell to use on them. They can't be detected by detect invisibility spells or divination spells. The immunity to psychic damage is pretty circumstantial. The immunity to the charm condition is circumstantial, but really good when it does come up. So here's our character. We are a great spellcaster. We are great at stealth. We are great at social roles. We have a great armor class. Not on this sheet. Remember, again, we'll be adding bonuses to that. Our hit points are decent, and we have so many spells. Great spells. This spell list is fantastic. We also have maneuverability. We essentially don't have a movement of 30 feet anymore. We have a 90-foot fly movement. Now, there's one more thing I want to do here. I probably should have done this the last time, but let's go ahead and do it now. I'm going to go to my first level spells, and I'm going to remove a spell. And the spell I'm going to remove is Dissonant Whispers, because probably I'm not casting that spell very much anymore. And instead of that, I'm going to take Featherfall, because I am now going to be riding around on a Pegasus. That Pegasus can be killed. If that Pegasus is killed, I'm going to fall. If I'm going to fall, having Featherfall available is probably something I want to have. Character's looking really good, guys. This is a great mage. A mage with a 20 armor class before any magical bonuses. We're probably looking at a 24, 25 armor class right now. That is going to be right up there with the best members of the party. It is possible you might see one or two higher, but unlikely you're going to see much higher than that. Obviously, at skills, we're terrific. Plus 13 acrobatics, plus 11 perception, plus 15 persuasion, plus 13 stealth. These are fantastic scores. And then when it comes to spells, we have terrific spells. We still have spells like suggestion and enhanceability and healing word and detect magic. These will still come up. But we also have spells like counterspell, hypnotic pattern, Lehman's tiny hut, dimension door, find greater steed, polymorph, teleportation circle, mass suggestion, force cage, mind blank. These will always be good spells right up to level 20. So let's do the jump to level 17. This is an important jump. Now we just got another ability score improvement. That means another feat. So what feat am I going to take? Well, I could take a feat that's going to help my ability to make concentration saves, and frankly, I probably should by now, huh? Well, okay, let's do that. Let's take Lucky. Why do I take Lucky? You know why I take Lucky, because it's good for everybody. It's just one of those things. It's going to come up. It's going to be useful. I'm going to be glad to have it. And this is the point that every spellcaster dreams of. 17th level. You probably will never make it here, guys. This is one of those places that we tend not to get to in campaigns. But when you do, you get to pick. And what do we get to pick? Well, Foresight is there, and True Polymorph is there. These are both terrific spells. Probably the two spells I would choose between. Foresight is the best buff in the game. 8 hours. They get basically advantage on everything, and everything gets disadvantage against them. So you cast it on a party member, probably somebody who's going to be making a lot of attack rolls. Maybe your party fighter is a good choice. And then it gives them great defense, great offense, all day, one spell. And then True Polymorph, I talked about this one in my 9th level video. One of the best 9th level spells in the game. Not necessarily as good as Wish, but really good. We can use it to turn our allies into dragons. We can turn trees into dragons. We can turn dragons into trees. I like this spell even more than Foresight because it is so versatile. So here's our Archmage. Our Archmage has 9th level spells. He's got one of the best 9th level spells in the game. He has some of the best 7th level, 6th level, 5th level, 4th level, and 3rd level spells in the game. Lots of spell slots. He has a rapier. He's not going to use that rapier. We're generally going to avoid using weapons with bards. This is true of Valor Bards, but he is going to have half plate and a shield. They're going to be magical. He might also have rings of protection or other kinds of protection. Armor class is going to be amongst the best, yet he's not going to go into melee, which means he's not going to get hit much at all. But when he does, then he's got his lucky feat in order to help him make a concentration save if that's what he needs to do. Though we now have padded his list with a number of spells that don't require concentration. He can cast Counterspell, he can cast Force Cage, he can cast Mass Suggestion. We're covering so many bases here. And an amazing skill user who has a weapon. This is a mage, and a really good mage. So here's something we don't do very often in actual play. We're going to go right to level 20. Level 17 to level 20 for Bard is actually a big deal, much bigger deal than we saw with the Cleric. We are getting Magical Secrets, 2 more choices. This is at 18th level. This means we can choose 9th level spells. You know what we're going to pick? We're going to pick Wish, right? Wish has to be the first choice for sure. So here's our Magical Secrets. The first selection should be obvious, and that's going to be Wish. Wish is the most powerful spell in the game. I discussed in a 9th level spell video. It can do so many things, but basically you can use it to duplicate any spell of level 8th or lower. We don't need to meet any of the requirements of the spell, including costly components. This allows us to do things like Resurrection for free. We can cast spells that take a long time, immediately, all kinds of things. If you're not picking Wish here, you are missing something up here. Now, when it comes to our second Magical Secret spell, it is tempting to pick another 9th level spell. I mean, something like a Prismatic Wall, I could see plugging a gap in this character that we hadn't considered before, like its inability to cast wall spells. But we only have one 9th level slot, and we want it for Wish. That means picking a spell of a lower level slot. So I'm thinking with 8th level spells not being the strength of this character, why don't we consider a really good 8th level spell in order to shore up that part of this character? I'm thinking maybe the Maze spell. Maze is a good way to take one character just right out of the fight, no saving throw. Then they have very difficult time coming back. We know where they will come back. We can often choose when they come back. So this becomes a very useful use of our 8th level slot. And I do think it shores up one of the potential weaknesses here, that our 8th level spell slots weren't looking that great. Now with Maze on the list, pretty good. So now we get an ability score improvement, and now I'm going to do it. Now I will take Resilient Constitution. With most spellcasters, I will take Resilient Constitution eventually. I often won't take it near the beginning because it's not adding as much then. But the more levels you gain, the more it adds, so it is a scaling feat. And as a spellcaster, being able to make those Constitution saves is important. And with Resilient, of course, we're not just talking about concentration saves, we're talking about all Constitution saves. And here's our character. How's this for an Archmage? We have Wish. We have a terrific list of spells. We can cast just as many spells as any other character. We have ritual spells. We have a decent amount of hit points. We're going to have a great armor class. We are going to have some of the best skills in all the game. Persuasion is plus 17. Stealth is plus 15. Perception is plus 13. We're not even a wisdom-based character with a plus 13 wisdom. Plus 15 to acrobatics. Great spells. Passive perception is 23. I can use bardic inspiration tons of times, 5 times every short rest, adding a d12 every time. This can add to an ability check, an attack roll, a saving throw, damage roll, or to their armor class using a reaction. Notice the plus 6 initiative. I don't have any special feats adding to initiative. Bards just get that because Jack of all trades, of course, adds to initiative. And since we started with a decent dex, that ends up being a plus 6 initiative. That's going to beat a lot of the dex-based characters in the party. Somebody's going to mention I didn't mention Counter Charm. Unless I do, Bards get Counter Charm. It's not very good. Go ahead and take a look at it. But generally, I don't think it's really worth mentioning. So that's the Valor Bard. You can find the link for this character in the description down below if you want to check out the character sheet. I will keep it up till the end of this year and probably through January. At some point, I'm probably going to want to delete it. But if you check it out before the first couple months of 2019, it will still be there. So you can see in more detail the decisions that were made. The important thing to remember here, the point I was trying to make, is being able to use armor and a shield when you are a spellcaster is a big deal. And good armor and a good shield, which a bard can do if they take Valor Bard alone. If you don't take Valor Bard and you play a bard, you have a problem. And that problem is defense. And you need to find a way to deal with that. You can hang back, and that will reduce the number of attacks you face. It will reduce the number of spells you face. Won't eliminate them. And if you are working off an armor class of 14 or 15, that's going to be a problem, especially when you are trying to concentrate on spells. And this really comes into play around levels 7 through 9 when you are dealing with spells like Hypnotic Pattern and Polymorph and Animate Objects. They get taken down very easily. With a Valor Bard, we can shore up our defenses without using spells. I get told that things like cutting words is a good use for a Lore Bard. That's one attack. When you get targeted with an attack, you tend not to get targeted with one attack. You get targeted with 4 attacks or 5 attacks. Being able to reduce the chance of one of them hitting isn't that much, and it's not going to make a huge difference because you don't have a good armor class, so they're going to hit and hit and hit. So you could use your magical secrets. You get magical secrets at level 6. You could grab shield, but then you're going to be using your shield spell just to meet what this character could do without the shield spell. And then this character has more spell slots, which makes this character the better caster. So that's what I want to be the takeaway. Valor Bards are amazing wizards. They are not great at martial ability, but when it comes to spell casting, they're really quite good. And then in addition to that, you're getting your inspiration and your skills, so they are a very useful character. But do not underestimate their ability to cast spells. They are almost as good at spells as any other character. So, what did I get wrong? What did I get right? Why don't you let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time. Till then, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to relax. I'm going to have some fun because D&D is for everyone. Thanks, guys. See you next time.